Well, Mario, thank you so much for joining me on Behind the Art. I have been a huge fan of yours. God, I can't recall the first time I've seen your art. It was probably Deviant Art way back when.
Oh my
Um,
God.
I think it was there was a particular piece that really stood out to me. I think it was called Trust in Me. It had this kind of
Yeah,
like female figure with a mask and this like fire kind of trail.
yeah.
And that was like that really kind of stuck out with me. And then of course, we sort of connected on Facebook and Instagram, and we sort of maintained a relationship. But always love your work so much, man. But thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much, Karen. It's a pleasure to be finally here. We've known each other for many years on social media. And I have to be honest with you, I've been waiting for the call all this time because you were interviewing a lot of my peers, and I was like, well, I think eventually he will get to me. And I was like, I'm getting impatient, Karen. So finally here we are. I'm very pleased to be finally here. So thank you very much.
Yeah, it's this kind of, this once experiment kind of turned into something sort of more than I expected, but in a good way because I get to meet all you guys for the first time and also just kind of expose the audience to your work as well because, a lot of the artists I've interviewed, including you, they don't have a lot of stuff on like YouTube, like video interviews and things like that. So I kind of, I do this to sort of expose amazing art to everybody that if they weren't familiar. Even though I'm kind of like I don't have a huge following, but I'm slowly building up, So
So yeah, that's very cool because there is not very many channels that talk about the specific niche of work that we do. So it's very cool to finally have a platform so we can speak and let people know that we do exist and we do stuff. And even though there are less and less of us as the time goes by, especially nowadays with all the AI, we will talk about that later.
yeah.
But yeah, it's very cool to finally being able to listen to other cover artists or creative individuals that are on the industry as we are and get to know them besides what they post on Instagram, because as you said, we don't have the biggest followings, and sometimes it's very hard to catch up with all the people. We are always very busy. We are always very tired, and it's hard to find platforms with information and stuff from other peers in the industry. So thank you for bringing this up.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it's my pleasure. And, I've always, as an artist myself, I like these sort of channels because it's just kind of, you get in depth on what, a person's creative process is like and what they deal with day to day. And I think it's good
Hmm.
knowledge to kind of know. And of course, with social media, you have to sort of be
Uh,
present and have to have a face for people to sort of engage with you. So that's also,
yeah,
but
I hate social media.
yeah, I agree, man. I'm the same way. I've kind of the older I get, the more I'm kind of like,
I
it's
just surrendered. A couple of years ago, it was like I've had enough of this, and I keep on posting and such, but I just cannot keep up the pace. It just has changed a lot, and I remember that back then in the DeviantArt days and all that kind of platforms, that you would just post your art, and a lot of people would comment and engage with you, and that would be great. And now you have to be a marketing expert to be the algorithm.
yeah.
And I am too old and too tired for that. I leave that to the young generations, honestly.
Yeah, I agree. Before we start, I just wanted to say congratulations to Spain for winning the World Cup.
Oh,
Thank you
thank you
so
very
much.
much.
We're everybody was, I guess, rooting against Argentina, and I was so worried because my son is a huge football fan, and
Mm.
he was, yeah, we were. It was a good game. Thank you.
Yeah, don't get me started about it. We really suffered watching that play. It was atrocious how Argentina play, and I'm happy we won. So yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, let's just start from the beginning. Like, when did you realize you wanted to do art for a living? Like, was it when you were a kid, or was it something you discovered when you got older?
Well, I think I always tend to say that an artist is a child that survived. When we grow old and we start to have responsibilities, those kill our creativity because the elders always will say to you that if you are enjoying it, it's not a job. So all kids, they all paint and draw and sing and dance. And over time, most of them end up in a gray office. So when I was a kid, I was just a regular kid, maybe with some more talent than others. I remember but that back in school, everyone was like, "Oh, the drawings of this guy are very cool and such," and that pushed me to pursue a career in classical fine arts in university. And it was there when I realized that I could create money off of this because my idea was to get into the filmmaking industry. And somehow along the way, I realized that it was so much for me that I'm a lone wolf. So I started to mix what I knew from Photoshop because I was formerly a web designer before becoming an illustrator. And from what I knew from Photoshop, I started to mix that with some of my photography, and I instantly realized, oh, I like this stuff, like making my first very rough photo manipulations. And in a couple of months, I was starting to get clients because I was posting everything on DeviantArt and GFX Artists and Shadowness and all those very, very old platforms, older than Facebook itself. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I never asked myself when I was a child what I wanted to become. Maybe I would have told you that I wanted to be a singer or something like that, but it came along the way.
Yeah, I think everybody's sort of you're all born artists, and then something down the line happens where you either have an adult tell you, "Oh, you can't make a
Hmm.
living doing this," or "Oh, that's for children doing art." So then you just sort of
Yeah.
pursue other things, and I was lucky
Hmm.
enough to kind of, because I used to always draw as like a little kid. Like as soon as 3, 4 years old, I used to draw, watch movies. But my parents were very supportive in terms of like they always kind
Hmm.
of knew I had some kind of creative thing going. So I'm glad you kind of have the same. Like, were your parents pretty supportive on doing that? No.
Absolutely not. Not even not even to this day. And I've been working on
Oh,
this for 20 something years. My family are farmers and we have some lands. We cultivate flowers. And I was the rightful heir to the land. I was born to be a landlord of sorts.
okay.
So when I was a teenager, I told my family, this is not happening. They were not cool about it, like at all. And they still aren't. So good for them, I guess.
That's I wasn't expecting that answer, but I mean I guess that's pretty common when you have sort of like a family business, and there's like,
Yeah.
maybe your family expect.
And I guess if I created other kinds of stuff, maybe they will be more open to it. But I create very fucked up images, and they are like, "I'm not going to hang this in the living room, Mario." So I'm fine with that. It's been a while now, so it is what it is.
So you mentioned web designing. Was that your last career, or do you still do web designing along with what you do now? Like, do you make money solely off of your illustration stuff, or do you have like another job as well?
Well, I work as a cover artist full time, and it's been like that for 20 something years. Luckily, I'm booked and blessed. Thank you very much. but I don't work anymore as a web designer. That was I was a teenager and I had like a fan page about Final Fantasy, and I would design the website and the forums. And we were very big actually because the internet was very small back then. And I knew how to design by stealing design elements from other websites and mixing them up. You know how this works, and taking traces of code, and that's how it started. But nowadays, I still do web design for my own website. I work on WordPress, and I like to design everything on my own. And I'm thankful that I had that stage on my life, so now I can have full control about my internet presence because of that.
Yeah, that's a good skill because that was my like I kind of worked with WordPress back in the day. Both my older brothers are they know how to like kind of build websites, but I always found it very tedious and kind of boring
It
because I just
is.
want to kind of get to the fun part, you know. And you know, right now, like my website, I use like Behance, like the Adobe,
Hmm.
portfolio. For me, you know, it's just simple. I can just upload, and there's just so many options now. Like you don't even like really need a web designer anymore because it's just basically like you know you can just kind of do it yourself. But there are things that like your website, for instance, I could tell like you're definitely a web designer. Like you have a lot of cool elements, and I was like, man, how did you do this? So you have that knowledge of being able to do that without relying on like a template or you know do all that stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, sometimes I use templates. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I modify them enough so it feels like my own. Because for me, marketing and branding is very important because our industry is very competitive and there is not that much of us left, to be honest. So it's important to have a very precise image of what you're selling. If you ask any art director, they will tell you that it's important to have a very concise portfolio that you can just take a peek in a handful of seconds. But I have never agreed with that. I don't have a portfolio, I have a business website because I want people to find me through search engines and go to my website because they are not art directors. I don't work for art directors. I am the art director. So I
yeah,
want people to come to me. That's why I'm not using social media anymore because I've spent the last 3 or 4 years working hard on SEO and now geo because we have new stuff every now and then. And 90% of my clients come from Google searchers and such. And they see the website and they see that it's like a small boutique business, and that's what bring them to me. Oh, that's what the data says anyway.
yeah. I've been told like it's important to create like a mailing list because
Yes.
if anything, like I've had my last Instagram account was actually hacked and
Uh,
I got booted out of it. So it's like I was kind of panicking because I have a lot of like clientele that were attached to that.
hmm.
And then I was like, man, if I had a mailing list or if I had more people going through my website, I wouldn't have to worry about that because if social media, like these apps just like decide, hey, we're not going to, Instagram is no more, like, you know, what are you going to do? You have to have some sort of like, backup plan to sort of like be self independent and self
Correctly.
contained. And I think yes, that's the right approach for you because like I look at your website and it's like okay, you show a lot of examples and it's very much a this is who I am, this is what I do, as opposed to just like sending someone just a random bunch of photos or your artwork and saying, hey, this is what I do.
Yeah, that's cool for our directors because they want to see everything that you do in a glimpse in a second. But I work mostly for indie authors and musicians, and they will just type in Google cover artist or surreal illustrator or something like that. And if they found you, you need to have a website that talks their language. They are not art directors. You are the art director. You have to guide them. So I think that's very important. And that's why I switched to mailing list too, it's still not being successful because I used to have a very big following on social media, but I got hacked. I got shadow banned. I was shadow banned in Meta for 4 to 5 years.
Oh
So
wow.
I lost 12,000 followers. So it was a massacre. So I don't know what happened. So I just had to find a way out for it. And I started to build my mailing list like a year ago. I don't have much time for it to be honest, but I try to send emails every once in a while. And we are around 1,000 people now. And those people are your target audience because there is a lot of people that will follow you on Instagram just because one pic or one thing you said. But if they are making the effort to stand up to your mailing list is because they really want to get to know you.
Oh yeah, yeah, totally. And also, I find that a lot of my clients are recurring clients, like stuff that I've
Mm.
done work for, and I think a mailing list like that would be handy because you can kind of send out like little reminders and say, "Hey, I'm
Hey, I'm
still
here.
alive."
Yeah.
Because I do that on social media. I'll a friend will, a band will post some like, "Hey, we have a new album coming soon," and then I'll like just, you know nonchalantly like, comment and say, "Oh, awesome!" Like not say, "Hey, I want to do it," but just kind of being in the same space and saying, "Hey, I'm
Hmm.
available. Remember me,"
Yeah.
kind of thing. And it does work. And believe it or not, it does work.
Hmm.
Because what I've learned is that if you have a client, you've worked with them multiple times, find for them to find somebody new is like more work than to just go to
Yeah.
someone you trust and know, hey, this guy's going to do the work, and whether you're better or not than the other artist, it doesn't even matter. It's like whether you can do the work.
It's more convenient. I totally get that. Unless you really want to change your aesthetic because you're releasing a new project that has nothing to do with everything you've done before and you
Yeah.
want a new branding, they will come back to you if the relationship was good and the final product was good. They, in my case at least, they most of them always come back.
Yeah, that's good. So so you do album covers and book covers. I know they're kind of similar in aspects, but I know like working with authors is a totally different animal than working with musicians. What do you
Yes.
prefer? Do you prefer working
Oh
on
my
album
God.
covers or book covers?
Okay. Okay. Disclaimer. We're supposed to say that we love all, all of our children equally, but that's a lie. We don't. I'm a musician. Music is my life. And yeah, I prefer album covers all day long. I have a very small degree of synesthesia. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly in English because I don't even know how to pronounce that in Spanish. So so it's this thing that you can, in my case, there are several types of synesthesia that you can see colors while listening to sounds.
Okay.
So that's why my work it's so explosive and has so many colors and doesn't follow any color rules. That they always tell you that, the golden ratio of color is 60, 30, 10%. And I never do that. I use all the colors in the rainbow, even if I want to show something very sad. And I think that's my signature style. And that works definitely better for music because I always ask my clients to send me their tracks or demos or any previous work that is connected to what they are going to release. Um, and that's where I get the inspiration from the atmospheres and the colors I can see when I close my eyes while listening to the music. And working with authors, it's a very different beast. You have to interview them, you have to read a lot. Sometimes you even have to read parts of the manuscripts because right now most people are using AI to write their own books, and you have to make sure you are not getting into that if you can. So it's more time consuming working for an author because they always want the things that are more specific. You know, they want this character on this scenery, and it has to match what happens in the story. So you have to also create the wardrobe of the characters and create the make paintings that are exactly like the authors envisioned them. And for musicians, most of the time, and at least in my case, they are like more open. You know, they are more like, okay, I trust you. I just want something that feels like whatever. And even if they have some guidelines and they have their briefs and they have their visual references for it, they're usually more open to it. And I enjoy more the process because I work in a very chaotic way. And when I have briefs that are very demanding and very specific, I tend to suffer a bit.
Yeah, I think I messaged you a few days ago about a book cover that kind of fell through for me, and
Yes.
I had that same experience where it was like I actually worked with this person before, but in this instance, I thought what I initially showed her was going to be what she wanted, and then of course she started kind of getting really specific, and then I
Yeah.
started thinking back like, man, if this was like a band, I could just everything is very much open to interpretation, and
Mm.
you can kind of sway them one way or the other and kind of go like, oh, well, if we did this, it might be cooler. And but when it comes to a story, it's like they have an idea in mind of how the character looks, like you said.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, it's like I like Samuel Araya, right?
Yeah, of course. I love
Yes,
his work.
yeah, like his stuff, like because I see he does a lot of book covers, but I could tell that the clients that he works with or the publishers he worked, they let him do whatever he wants because his style is so kind of like dark and unique to his own style that I can see him going like, hey, can you do a romantic novel? Or like people I guess don't reach out to him for do romance
Can you
novels.
can you imagine Samuel Araya doing romantic fiction covers? Oh my God, that would be so fucked
Honestly,
up.
yeah, honestly, I would like to see it, but in his style. If an author was open minded enough to let him do that, then that would be so cool. But I
I'm
doubt it would
sure there is someone out there who has wrote something uh, the Cthulhu mythos and such, and in a sexier way, a romance novel about Cthulhu and a girl who's dreaming about it. I don't know. People is really fucked up nowadays. So there's a lot of fan fiction of that kind, and that could be a very good fit. But besides the joke, I think a lot of the projects I've seen someone working in are like more philosophical, metaphysical, so to speak, and that gives the chance to create something that it's more ambiguous. In You know what I try to mean? I usually get more content for dark fantasy. So they have characters and they have nations and they have factions and they have a magic swords that speak in foreign languages and has a magic whatever, and creatures that you really have to create them as they are and try to convince your client that you cannot place 18 characters in a single cover because the cover is not going to be read in the way they want.
Yeah, it's like it's similar to probably what tattoo artists go through when a guy shows.
Yes.
I want a bird with the heart with flames in the background. I want a big forest with a woman like crying, and then like you're like I can do
Yes.
the bird, and that's it.
Yeah, it's your job as creative directors of any project that we have to guide our clients to, okay, this is what you want. Okay, but you need to make concessions because it's not going to work. We can and we must take the essence of what they want and translate that into a visual language that says the same that they want, but maybe not with the shape that they want because they are not creatives, most of them. So I think that's the important thing of our job is we are like visual translators, so to speak.
Yeah, totally. So are you one of those? Because I know there's depending on the artist, like some artists like the beginning stages, like the sketching stages, and sort of like compiling everything, and then more than the finished piece. Are you one of those people that like
Okay.
the process more than the finished artwork, or is it you like the finished piece? What's more satisfying?
Okay. Okay. This is a complicated question because I think most people would say I do art because I enjoy the process of finding myself in my brush strokes and something like that. I hate the process. I'm not to tell you honest with you. I hate the process, and it's because one reason in particular. I've been doing this for 20 something years. And, you know, I don't have time for my own art anymore because most of my time go to clients, and that's good, but that doesn't allow me to keep experimenting on what I want to say as a person, not as a creative director. So I've been wanting to switch styles completely for quite some time now. And since I don't find the time to do that, I sometimes try to talk to my clients and, well, what do you think if we take this different approach and you do a brief and you do some sketching and you try to sell the idea to them and they're like, no, we saw this in your portfolio and we want this. And I respect that because they are going to hire us because what they saw of us. And if what they see of us, it's always the same thing, they're always going to request the same thing. And unfortunately, my stuff, it's very, very, very complicated to create because it's hyperrealism and it takes so much time and so many resources that you need, you must ask for higher prices than everyone else because what you do is very, very, very complicated. So you know that every time you start a new cover, you are going to be, I don't know, 10, 12 hours a day, just like grinding in Photoshop or Data Studio or whatever tool you use. And it's always the same. I've been looking to create more simpler stuff, more iconic stuff, they are not allowing me half the time. So no, I don't enjoy the process. I'm sorry. I think most artists talk always about the journey and not the destination, but I'm a very anxious person and I just want to arrive already. So no, the process is not for me. I would say though that what I do really, really, really enjoy all the time, it's post-production. I really love to have an image which is around 80% and just start to play with texturing and fine-tuning the lighting, and it's starting to do corrective selections of colors in the channels and such, and the image starts to transform itself. And that's the thing that I really, really, really like. But that's the end of every artwork. It's because you get to do that for a handful of hours after being in that studio for 200 hours. So,
There's I kind of it's like I guess the equivalent to like a traditional artist staring at like a blank canvas and going,
mm,
okay, it's just intimidating. And like for me, I like to just throw everything at this at the canvas, the digital canvas.
mm,
Initially, I'll have like a figure or whatever, but like if I don't like start to feel like it's going in a good direction within like 30 to minutes to an hour, I get really like bummed out. Like, oh man, I just want it to
yeah,
come together, and it's just like, why is it not coming together quickly? Even though it's only been an hour, but for me, I'm so impatient that I want it to start
yeah,
looking sort of good, so it inspires me to sort of finish it, or But I'm a little. It depends on the project because sometimes like I'm not much of a like the sketches I provide to a client. Sometimes it's just like little tiny square sketch, really scribbly,
yeah, me too, me too.
just because I don't want to like commit to too many like specific ideas in the beginning because then they kind of expect it. So I kind of like to leave it sort of okay, this is the crappy sketch, but the finished piece will be
Hmm.
much better, and I can add and take away stuff that I feel like it's not working or it is working with the artwork, you know.
That's what I used to do, honestly. I can totally feel you because I think we both have a very similar style of working, and I think it shows. We use, I would say, the same tools and some of the recurrent themes that are alike. Um, and I used to do that to open the blank canvas and start throwing stuff at it. And oh, this works. But it's very hard because when you have certain specifications from your clients, you have to respect that. And sometimes you are not going to find assets or resources that are going to work for that. So there's this
Yeah.
magic trick I've learned over the years, and it's before sending the sketch. I hope none of my clients is watching this right now, but I just do the thing in 3D and trace it up and send to them. And if they are good with it, I just finish the sculpting, the texturing, and go to Photoshop because they want to see something specific. And I need to check with myself if I can do that. So
Yeah.
I need to, before committing to anything, I need to see if I can create that with the tools I use. And hey, this is what I can do. What do you think? Oh, that's cool. Okay, let's go for it. Sometimes
Yeah.
it doesn't work.
Yeah. I'm the same. I do the same exact thing. I kind of like I sort of like go, okay, can I find this asset? Can I do this? And then you feel a little
Yes.
bit more confident too, instead of just saying I can do it, and then you're like just panicking.
Hmm.
This is actually kind of leads into the next question. I noticed like your last few pieces of art, you started incorporating kind of like DAZ 3D, which I use, or any like 3D programs. Has
Mhm.
that is that like a new thing, or have you been using that for a while? Or because it just seems like you've been using it more, but yeah, I mean, I think because I use it myself, and for me, it's like just so handy to be able to pose a figure the way you want it, light it,
Yes.
all that stuff. It's so convenient. It's hard to go back to just regular photos because you just
Tell
have
me
that.
about it.
So when did you
So,
start using that? Yeah.
well, I'm going to surprise you. My first 3D piece I did in 2006
Okay.
in Poser because
Yeah.
I'm that old. I'm
I used to
very
use Poser.
old. But I'm always worked better with photography. But yeah, I started to get serious with that studio like 4 or 5 years ago. And I had this commission a couple of years ago for an unofficial Dungeons and Dragons campaign. They requested something that was very complex that I thought I will never be able to do. It was this medieval knight with this shiny armor that is rusted, but it's in a lush environment in a lake, and instead of having a human head, it or he has a giant rosebud that it's getting withered, and it was very very complex because how am I going to achieve this with photography or by using 3D assets because I'm not that good of a sculptor, to be honest. And I told to myself, let's go into try. I was honest with the client, like, well, what you are requesting could be easy to do if you commissioned a painter for it. But I'm not a painter. I'm a painter, but it's not my main thing. And he was cool with that, and he allowed me some time to experiment, and I managed to do it fully in 3D. It was all in one take, and then I did my usual post production in Photoshop. But from that onwards, I was like, I can do whatever I want, even if I don't know how to start. If I can find the right assets, because sometimes when using Data Studio, we are confined to the DAS library. So the next logical step was for me to learn how to import and export assets from Blender or from ZBrush to that studio and learn how to make textures for them, so I can use my usual framework, but with expanded assets, so to speak. So yeah, it's, I think 3D it allows us, uh, photo manipulators at base, to be more flexible, but it also makes the workflow more complex, because sometimes you end up in ways that you cannot get out of. No, so you have to find strange workarounds for them. I'm planning to keep on studying, because my goal is to being able to model and sculpt everything on my own in Blender or ZBrush. I've been neglecting a handful of courses and workshops I purchased like a few years ago, and I never find the time, because I'm doing still the basic workshops that how to do geometric shapes and texturing them and such, and that's very, very boring for someone who's been working on this for so many years. But I think that's the way to go, because when you create stuff that it's so complicated and it's so multi-layered, you need to work fast, especially now with all the competition that there is with AI and such. You need to work fast, because the style that we've got, it's it's very demanding. We need to make everything minute count. So yeah, that's why I mostly teach photography, and I rarely use it anymore.
Yeah, I'm kind of because I've been using I think we're around the same age. I'm 43, but I've been
41. Yeah.
okay. So I started using 3D like back in probably 2002 with Poser, and I would like,
Yeah.
but Poser was so bad, like the figures were so
Yeah.
terrible,
Oh
and I
my
think I switched
God.
over to Daz because they just had better looking assets, and
Hmm.
I think even now it's like super, it's even better than it was 10 years ago. I mean the quality of the models. But
Yes, it has great assets, and if you know your lightning, you can create very pro stuff with that. It's very good, I think.
yeah, yeah, and I dabbled in ZBrush as well, and I was really, I would bring in like a model from Daz into ZBrush, and I would like sculpt over it,
That's what I
and
want to
it's
do.
yeah, it's fun, but it's complicated. But now I haven't had the time to even do that because I'm my regular job, and then I've just been kind of growing sort of bored of my usual like just the same process, opening up Daz, rendering something, bringing in the photo. Like I just become kind of, and I've been sort of like wanting to branch out to do more traditional stuff, and it's been tough like to make that transition because digital stuff is what's giving me money, and like if I any time that I spend on doing any traditional stuff is like taking away from that. And I was going to ask you, with the rise of AI, have you
Yeah.
ever considered doing traditional artwork, like shifting from digital to traditional?
Well,
Has a
not shifting, going back to, because I am a classical trained artist. Absolutely, yes. In fact, it's a thing I talk a lot with one of my peers, who's also an illustrator, digital illustrator, and she's going back to traditional, because the kind of stuff that I do, that it's hyper real, but with surreal vibes and fantasy elements and such. It's the kind of default stuff that comes from AI. So I always get this. I guess that you too. That, oh, you did this with AI, but this kind of aesthetic is very AI core or whatever, and that's something we cannot change. So we have trained the algorithm with our images, with our permission or not. So I think that there is the value of the kind of art that we create is being decreased right now because of this shift in the industry. So I think we have or need to go back to basics and create artifacts, objects that there is only one of a kind, and that you can touch, and that AI cannot replicate. Because it will, but not today. So in the meantime, let's try to stick to a plan. And yeah, of course, I think about that. And I have a painting studio in my here that I don't use, only for my textures, for my work, that I like to do abstract stuff, and I scan it and I use it. But I think it's we all digital artists, we need to have the talk with ourselves and sit with ourselves and talk about what are we going to do with this, because the clock is ticking and this is going to get worse. And you know, I was on the art environment, so to speak, because we are digital artists and cover artists, and we are not in the art world, or so they say. And I was there many years ago, and I hated it so much. It's a terrible place with terrible people and terrible institutions, or at least that was my experience. And the mere thought of going back, not my favorite mental place to be in, but it's something that I'm really considering, because this is a matter of time that 99% of cover art is going to be made by AI, because we're going to reach a point that it's going to be indistinguishable, and it's going to be impossible to know if it was made by a human or by a machine. So yeah, that's a very interesting question, and I'm absolutely considering it. I just wish I had the time to go back to it and to have the courage to sit in front of an actual blank canvas and take my brushes, because that's frightening, because it's been 15 years since the last painting I did. It really scares me so much. So who knows, maybe in a couple of years, our work is to create analogic or traditional stuff to sell to clients, because the kind of clientele we are going to get is people that really want human-made art, to tell their audience that they care and that they are buying an artifact, a book, a CD, that it's exclusive. So if on top of that, everything that comes to the production of that artifact comes from something that is handmade, I think that's probably the way to go, but only time will tell, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think there is a lot of AI backlash currently, and like people are sort of pointing it out, and but it's still enough to definitely take away some of my business. I don't know if you've been experiencing the same thing, a slowing down of clients, because there's
Oh,
usually it's the clients that are kind of cheap to begin with are very much adopters of AI, or they'll
yes.
find an artist that will kind of trick them into saying, "Oh yeah, I can do that," and they'll just render something in AI and then get charge them. But
That's
yeah, good.
that's what I was telling you about branding on the websites in the beginning. It's like I try to make my clients understand that they are not purchasing a file, an image. They are buying a pack, and that's why I sell myself now as a creative director, because I do the image, the designs, and I also advise you how to release your book or how to release your album, because I've been doing this for 20 something years, and I know how the industry works from within. And that's why I changed my branding to be like, I'm your partner in crime. I'm just not, hey, here's your image and now good luck. Because they want to be guided. Most of my clients are indie authors or indie musicians, and they don't know how stuff is done. And sometimes they have very unhinged ideas, and you have to tell them, hey, no, that's not going to work. I'm telling you now, you do you, but that's not going to work. This is how it is. unless you are David Bowie or Madonna, it's not going to work. So yeah, it's complicated, and that's why I've been switching, because I've always sold myself. I'm a cover artist or illustrator, or I think I had to ditch that because I need my clients to feel secure and to make them know that they are buying an experience and they are buying a creative director that is going to accompany them throughout the process of the release of their products.
Yeah, I mean that's something, because I think that's also a good skill to have, a graphic designer background, because a lot of artists, they can just make the art, like they'll just give the client a cover, and then the client will have to find a graphic designer to slap a logo on there, and sometimes they put the logo kind of weird, they don't find the right font. So yeah, offering the client like, hey, I can do the layout, I can do the text, I can do the logo, I can do the t-shirt, all all wrapped into one little bundle for X amount of money is attractive to them, because it's like, okay, I don't have to like have my little brother drop the.
Oh my God. No,
So
I had to add this clause in my contract many years ago that if you're buying an image from me, even if it's a license, that's something that I have created before, you are not allowed to hire someone else to put typography on there, because
okay.
you either take it or leave it. But that's how I roll, because no, I have seen things that I don't want to see them anymore. I have seen my art with Comic Sans, and that day I told myself this is not going to happen anymore. And there's that.
Yeah, I don't have a clause like that, but I just sort of like, sometimes, like I did a cover for a band, and I actually I put the logo and the title on the cover, but the person who was kind of doing the layout, they had another guy do it, which is another friend of his, which is fine, but he kind of laid it out differently. But every time I share the artwork, I use the one that I that I like laid out, because it's like, it's a
Yeah,
representation. Like, most people probably don't care, but as an artist, I'm just like, I want to be happy with it and be sort of like, okay, that's how I wanted it to
yeah.
be.
I have had many situations like that, that you create a great logo and great typography and a great layout, and you are so proud of yourself, and you are like, they are going to love it, and you send that to the client, and they're, no, we'd rather go with a tiny Times New Roman on the corner, and let's call it a day. And you're like, what the fuck is wrong with you, man? Why? What? And sometimes the difference, it's so huge that you are like, should I post this in my portfolio? Should I post this on Instagram? They are going to see it. And maybe some of their fans are going to see it. Is this right? Is this wrong? And sometimes I end up just not posting anything, like, okay, I'm too old for this shit. Okay, do whatever you want. And on my website, I do post my take on the covers, but not on social media. I understand it might be disrespectful for some clients, so I just avoid to enter into that conflict. But yeah, sometimes it's like, I cannot believe with this marvelous layout I created for you. You just want a tiny Times New Roman on the corner. This is a true story and happened to me not so long ago, and I was really devastated because I invested so much time in that logo that they didn't request and they didn't want. So maybe it was my fault to try to make something better than it already was.
Yeah, this actually goes really nicely in my next question. What was an example of like a nightmare client?
Oh my God. I know this was coming. We've been talking about this on Instagram. And I really have some notes here on my screen, because I've been looking forward to take this off my chest. It's something that happened like around a year ago. And I've been doing this for many, many years. I've seen it all. I've seen everything. Or that is what I thought, because you know, I've had clients that are so nitpicky with everything, that we want this lyrics 2 millimeters to the right, and we want this plane to rotate it like 3 degrees to the left, and it's like, why did no one is going to notice that? But okay, you do you. But then AI came. Um, I've been dealing with AI clients, as I tend to call them, in all shapes and forms. But I just found the final boss last year. I knew she was the final boss the second or third email we interchanged. So I decided um, to document everything, because I knew it was going to be something unhinged. And I was unfortunately right, but I did that. I did this for science. Like, I've been a couple of years receiving people that have briefs created by ChatGPT, and they are sending visual references created in Midjourney or Leonardo or what have you. And sooner or later, you get to tell them that, hey, this is not working, or if we sign the contract, this is not how it's going to work, and blah, 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 blah. Most of them are fine. They are just trying to sound professional in a field they know little of. So it's our job to let them know that they are in a safe space, that we need them to speak in their own terms, that our job is to translate what they need. But some won't listen to you. So I had this girl that first off, the commission was a portrait of her doing the lotus position, this yoga position, with
Yeah.
several arms behind, with angel wings, and she had like a million dreadlocks floating in zero gravity in the middle of the universe, with all the chakras aligned, and a million butterflies because it was a metamorphosis or something like that. You know, I know a narcissistic when I see one, and I know, oh my God, you're going to be a very tough cookie. But I'm doing this for science. So after exchanging a couple of emails, she was starting to stop creep all the time, because she will tell you something, you will reply, and she will just take your reply, paste it in ChatGPT, and just send you the answer without even taking a
Oh,
look at what the algorithm was saying.
oh
You know,
man.
and sometimes I've seen terms that I didn't know that existed, because they don't. Like, she will talk me about made up colors and made up concepts that she thought that were industry standards. Like, I want the color heart of light. And what the fuck are you talking about? You know, so, and she wanted something very complex. And I have to say, you have this budget, you have this much time, this is not possible. We have to cut, we have to edit. And she was like, okay, I'm going to send you a new brief with the things I want to cut. And she would send you exactly the same brief. I was like, is this girl mentally challenged, or I'm on acid? What is happening here? So eventually we agreed on a brief. We signed the contract. I remember that I added like 2 new pages to my already very big contracts, because this is going to be a train wreck. This is going to be a dumpster fire like no other, but I want to watch it. I'm going to learn a lot. And I took this as a master degree in AI clients. And man, was I right? Oh my God. So, as I told you before, I create the figure in that studio because I knew what was coming, and I trace it because it was like 200 redlocks floating in zero gravity.
So
That's
specifically
not
200.
that's not fun to do. That's absolutely not fun to do. But I sent her the sketch, and she was okay with it. And I was like, cannot believe you. Okay. So couple of weeks, I sent her the first draft, which was the actual artwork, like 70% or such. And she sent me the longest email I have ever received in my career with all the things she didn't like. And most of those things were off brief, or she was making them up as she went. Um, and things that didn't have any sense, because she's telling me that she doesn't like the shape of this butterfly, of a red butterfly, but there are no red butterflies in the artwork, because it's ChatGPT telling her that there's a red butterfly and you need to change it. So while I was trying to craft a reply to that, she sent me another email. And she was like, Mario, I'm going to be fully transparent with you. Since the first time I contacted you, this project has been evolved like myself. So it's not the same thing, because I'm going through a metamorphosis, and the album is too. So I want you to know that it's not your fault. It's me who has changed, and I have not had the tools to let you know. So I think that you are not the right fit for this commission anymore. So I wish you the best. Thank you very much. And I was like, I knew this was coming, but I'm not finished. Just wait for it. I sent her an email, and it's like, okay, I agree with you. No hard feelings here. Here's the invoice for the killing fee. Because in all my contracts, there's a cancellation fee. If you cancel, you have to pay me the hours I have already invested, besides the deposit, because the deposit covers all the conception phase, the sketches, the discussions with the clients, the first 3D drafts, but everything else you have to pay for it, even if you cancel. That's in the contract. But she just feed the contract to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT just, I guess it told her that the contract is cool. So I think she never read through it. And when I sent that email, at last, she sent me a mail written by herself that, oh my God, she insulted me in so many ways that I could go to jail if I read that out loud. But ultimately, she told me that I was an incompetent artist, that I didn't know how to translate her vision. We had 2 rounds of revisions left that she rejected. And that ultimately she was rejecting it because it was clear as day that I was using AI for the cover art.
Oh my God. Wow.
So yeah, it was so much fun. So now I have contracts with 2 other pages, and I had to craft a welcome document for all my new clients. That it's just a very huge disclaimer that, okay, we have seen the contract, you have paid the deposit, and this is how it works. No AI, no ChatGPT. This is how you give feedback. Do it in your own words. My work is to translate your mind. And if at any point I see you are sending me ChatGPT emails, because you can recognize those by a mile, because the grammatical and syntactical structure, they are very obvious. I'm canceling the project, and I'm keeping the money, because this is not going to happen to me anymore.
Yeah,
So that's all
yeah,
good.
see, yeah, you're better than me at that, because I'm always like, like, I mean, I do have a 50% deposit, and like there was a time, or there was a point where I was doing the album cover for a band, and I literally did it, and then he was like, "Oh, let's try this," and I did it again, and then it was like, I know what, I don't think this is working out. I'm just going to let you keep the deposit. I mean, that's usually the sort of agreement anyway. When someone, you pay half and you don't finish the project, or the client's not happy with it, you just keep the half, and then that's it. But yeah, I think I need to develop some kind of kill fee, especially like in your case where the client is just, this is going to be really difficult. And
You are seeing it coming. I have several different contracts, and depending of the client, of the risk I think I'm going to take, I send one or the other. Because right now they're on hinge with the AIs. I'm seeing things I never thought I would experience in this lifetime. They are just, I don't know, I don't want to say this, but people is just fucking dumb nowadays with it. You can say AI is a tool and that's cool, but you have a brain. You could use it and surprise yourself because a brain can do things. You can use AI and that have human criteria to filter it, but they are just lazy, and I don't know. It's very fucked up right now. I just have a lot of I don't know if that only happens to me. I don't know if that's your case, but I'm getting all of them because I have a very good ranking in SEO. They don't find me through social media. Um, and they just try to be professional, I guess. But there's like a lot of people that they have written a full fantasy trilogy overnight, and they want a human cover artist, so the final product looks like it's human because they know they are fooling people. So now, on top of everything, I have to request all the manuscripts so I can take a look and know if they are human written or not. What the hell?
Yeah, it's. I mean, I haven't had as extreme of a case like you, but I have been getting like at least like, oh, here's a AI rough that this
Oh, of
kind of
course.
direction, but they were like, but you do it in your style. This is just a kind of, and that's fine for the most part. I'm like, I'm
Yeah,
not
it's
happy about
okay.
it, but at least I kind of know what they kind of are looking for in some aspect. But yeah, I've never that. I mean, what you've told me, that's beyond crazy. I mean, the fact that I heard dreads and chakras, and I was like, I knew exactly what kind of client you're dealing with.
Yeah,
'Cause,
I knew you knew.
yeah,
Yeah,
I had one like years ago reach out, and she wanted me to develop like 12 images for something, and then I agreed to it, and then she threw this whole, I want to interview you, and each artwork you created and ask you about the process, and I was all like, yeah, I
uh,
don't want to do that. And then she just flipped, like she just turned into a major bitch, like, and
maybe it
she's
was the
supposed to
same
be,
person. We should talk about this off camera. I'm telling
yes,
you, it was the same per. Oh
oh
my
my
god, can
god,
you imagine?
she had dreads too. It probably is.
Well,
I'm gonna, yeah,
oh,
we'll touch base.
yeah. We need to talk about. Oh my god, we can create like like this association of victims of something. Oh my god, yeah.
All right, Mario. So I asked this. This is the last question I ask all my guests. I know it's a tough one, but what if you could work on a dream project you'd love to work on? What would it be? It could be anything. You know, anything
Hmm.
you'd want.
My retirement, does that count?
No, that's
No,
that sounds good.
I'm
Retirement.
old. I'm very old. I'm very tired right now. No, that jokes aside, I've been trying to finish my first solo album for many years now. When you have a band, you just distribute responsibilities and you fight a lot, but it's at the end you get to the finish line somehow. But when it's on you, and you are recording all instruments and singing everything and producing everything, it's very difficult, and I've been trying to get that off my chest for many years, but I just don't have the time. I have a recording studio here at my place, but I just don't find the time. If you ask me some years ago, I would have told you that, well, my dream project would be to work with any of my favorite bands, but after doing that several times, I will just tell you that don't meet your idols because some of them are very nice, but some of them are special. You know,
Yes,
artists
yeah,
are
I agree.
special. Musicians in particular are very special. So, so yeah, there's a couple of bands I had to stop listening to after working for them. So yeah, of course, there's a couple of people that I would die for working for them. But right now, if I could choose one, it would be to finish because it's halfway to finish my own record. To be honest,
Nice. Yeah, that's because I. What do you play? What music or?
everything. Kind
Okay.
of music. It's a mixture. You know, it's mostly I would say prog rock with shoegaze, but it's very what the fuck because you have this one song that starts like reggaeton and it ends up being post-punk noise. And there is another bossa nova that ends up like if it were a Devin Townsend song. There's a lot of noise and atmosphere and trip hop and guitars, and it's very weird. It's like a film, but with sounds. So
Okay. Yeah, because I
my
used to.
producer
Yeah.
my producer told me that he didn't know what the fuck we were doing when we started to record. So I leave it at that.
Yeah, because I used to play in bands like over 20 years ago. I played drums,
Mm.
and
Oh.
it's fun, but when being in a band with other people, it's like having a second girlfriend or a wife or something, or
Yes.
it's like it's relationships. It's like you have to get along with everybody, and then you're like, it just it
Yeah.
the late nights, and especially now with like the back constantly hurts from sitting at the computer desk, so I can't lug heavy equipment as easily as I did when I was
Yeah.
in my 20s. But
We're old already. We are starting to be very old. So no, yeah, I totally get that.
all right, Mario. Well, thank you again, man, for doing this. It was a pleasure talking to you. It was
Thank you very much.
but I'm going to leave a link to all your websites, your online store for people to check out. But yeah, everybody check out Mario's work. Amazing artist and obviously amazing individual as well. But yeah, man, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Karen. It's been a pleasure. I was really, really dying to appear here, and I've had so much fun. And I finally got to talk about this client from hell that I was dying to speak about because I've had so many nightmares about it. And you never know where is the right platform or the right place to talk about this because I can make a post on my website that nobody's going to read because they're not looking for that kind of info. So I think people is going to find this conversation very, very interesting, I hope. And again, thank you very much for having me here. Best of luck with everything.